when Prabhupada was in his last months, he couldn't walk. He had practically nothing but bones and skin on his body. And yet, he went to London. And you know, when he went to London, he was actually on his way to Gita Nagari in America. Because he wanted to show the importance of this natural farming and this cow protection. But somehow or other he had a serious crisis in London and he couldn't go further. So he came back to Vrindavan to leave this world. So yes, book distribution is a top priority. But if we actually study Srila Prabhupada, these rural communities were just as much a top priority. So that's why we are doing. Srila Prabhupada had this vision. And we see today, if we only followed it along in all of these communities, our movement would be at the cutting edge of relevant spirituality for the world. This Dr. David Haberman, who was just here a few days ago, he's a PhD, head of the religion department at the University of Indiana in America. And he was telling me that there is such a movement in the universities and colleges toward environmentalism, because these are intelligent people who have done intelligent research and studies, and whatever corporations and everybody say, they know as fact there is no future for survival unless there's a total shift of priorities toward toward respecting Mother Earth. When everything seemed so all right, Srila Prabhupada saw this and emphasized it. And in many ways, because I was living at New Vrindavan, we were doing it, but it was just in faith in Srila Prabhupada, almost blind faith, because it just didn't seem at all relevant or practical. Because there wasn't really, cancer was not that much in those days, the ecological and pollution and all the things that we're seeing, global warming, we never heard these words in those days. It was just, whatever Prabhupada says, we just do it, whether the moon's here or here, we just do it. That was kind of the mood. But now we see it's actually critical. Another incredible vision of Srila Prabhupada, how he saw into the future. He wanted these New Vrindavan and these other places to be places of pilgrimage. And somehow or other, there were distractions and everything like that. But now, practically in the West and in the East, for those of you who are actually aware, because the last couple years I've actually been out there with people. The thing that transforms the public to actually commit themselves to spiritual movements, one of the main reasons is through retreats. It's something that we've hardly actually connected to the reality, but almost everybody else is doing it. And my God, they're attracting millions of people through retreats. People want retreats. They go to a temple, on Sunday and they do everything nice. But people, they want to go for a weekend or a week or a month or a year where they really feel they're in a completely spiritualized atmosphere and they're learning, they're being educated in every way. I can give so many examples, but literally, I could give examples that could take the rest of the day. There's a retreat center in Massachusetts called Kripalu Retreat Center. It has nothing to do with the Kripalu of it's the name. And it was started many years ago by a person who loved Prabhupada. His name was Yogi Amrita Desai. He was a yogi. And he began it, and little by little it became a retreat center. It's in a cold place, and it's not that close to anything. "365 days a year. They practically never have less than 1,000 people there. Throughout the year, they have, do you know how they run it? They run it without any costs as far as human, personal, there's no employing anybody. They have an average of 500 volunteers at a time, all year round. People stand in line to volunteer to come there to serve. They invited me to speak on the Ramayana in August of this year. And I spoke to the person who was he was like the director in charge of the whole project. And he was explaining me how it worked. That people from all over America and Europe, they sign up to volunteer. Some live there for a year, some live there for a month, and they don't get paid anything. They don't get their expenses paid to get there, and they just serve. And while they're serving, they have to follow all the principles of the ashram. And there's usually minimum 500 to 1,000 people who come for the retreats. And they get classes, there's all sorts of, people came to hear Ramayana from me. They also have yoga classes and all sorts of different types of classes. And they're doing the gardening. They're taking care of the guests. They're doing all the cleaning. They do everything. Because people just want to get away and come to a place where they're spiritually nourished. Just a couple weeks ago, we went to Bangalore, to the Art of Living. And they have about 400 or 500 volunteers at a time and about 1,000 people at a time also there. And the main reason people come is because there's seva to do. And there's things to learn. They have yoga and they have classes and so many other things. It's a retreat. When I was in Delhi, I met this really nice lady who's a best-selling author of a book. And she was going all the way up to Uttarkashi in the Himalayas to the Shivananda ashram because there was a retreat where you just absorb yourself in learning spiritual things and doing seva. And she said, "Why don't you people have retreats?" Well, we could go to your temple on Sunday, but we want to get away and actually have an intensive absorption in spirituality. There's Omega Retreat Center. I can't tell you how many retreat centers I've just seen and been to, and how incredibly successful they are, and how many people join movements through retreats. Yes? It's not a small thing. It's an experience. It's an experience that people are yearning for or longing for. And throughout the world, we hardly have that. Like all of you yearn for yatras, yes? Secular people outside of our community who have some spiritual oriented, they yearn even more for spiritual retreats, where we could just give them a full experience and absorption away from everything else. And if we do it right, from all over India and all over the world, people could come. But we have to give them a full experience. Things that they could really relate to, as well as the more esoteric aspects. The more esoteric aspects is actually understanding the essence of Bhagavad Gita as it is. Srimad Bhagavatam. What is bhakti? What is true devotion? What is devotional service? What is Nam Sankirtan? Actually, not just superficially, doing kirtan, not just superficially, just reading some books, but actually getting deeply educated by real practitioners who they feel the love and compassion of Prabhupada and Krishna through. And at the same time, while doing that, body, mind, and soul, Ayurvedic treatment, Panchakarma, massage, learning Ayurveda, learning farming, organic farming, learning yoga. We could have weekend retreats, week retreats, month retreats. People will come for entire year retreats if we provide it. And then what to speak of our own congregation, who's always yearning for service. Sometimes, when you start getting big and you just don't know how to engage people, qualified people. A place where, devotees from our congregation and sincere people from outside our congregation could come for a week and help with the guests and help with the farming and learn how to take care of cows and be part of the educational system. It's an incredible retreat facility is an incredible way of engaging devotees, engaging the public. And I see so many of the teachers of yoga and so forth. That's how Buddhism has so much grown in the West. A lot of the reason that Buddhism is probably it's definitely the fastest growing Eastern religion in the Western world. Through retreats. Dalai Lama and his lamas, for years and years and years, they've been having retreats where people just leave everything and go and just experience all of this. And the yogis who are really, really successful with many, many followers, so much of it is because they have retreats. Sometimes with dozens of people, sometimes with hundreds of people, sometimes with thousands of people. They have a place to bring them. For our own congregation, for our own brahmachari ashram, for devotees all over the world, for the general public, for the yoga public. It's one of the most comprehensive, and it could be one of the most popular ways of really giving people a very deep living experience of associating with devotees for weeks at a time or days at a time and actually practicing bhakti among devotees. And I believe that we'll be shocked to see how many people want this if we just set up something nice, which is almost at that point. And to create a retreat center that's very much centered around what Srila Prabhupada wanted. That was the vision. Because what Srila Prabhupada wanted is one of the primary concerns of the world today, of high-thinking people. A retreat center where people can see, could learn, and can eat organic, natural foods. How to do it. We can teach. We can show them, we can feed them, we could teach them, and they'll help. My dear godbrother Tapapunj Prabhu at New Vrindavan today, he has a little organic garden, and he gets students from colleges from the local area and other parts of the country just to come to, and they just live with him and learn from him because they're so interested. What to speak if there was a whole retreat environment where all day long they're learning various things. This is one of the reasons Srila Prabhupada wanted. He didn't want simply that we're healthy, eating nice, organic food that's offered to Krishna. That's part of it. He wanted us to exemplify and teach the world how to live like this. We can do that here. And Srila Prabhupada wanted these natural, eco-friendly Prabhupada houses. He didn't call it Prabhupada houses. Somehow or other, devotees call it Prabhupada houses because he designed it and he wanted. So, devotees went through tremendous efforts. Probably the topmost successful and respected eco-friendly builder in all of India, Chitra. She's the one that actually helped to build all this. People will come and see natural bricks that are made right here with our own soil. They can actually make bricks themselves. We can help them make their own house. They can make their own houses here if they want. It's not going to be in their name, but they can make it. And people will love to do that. I can see in the future, now, we have these really nice, simple people who are hiring to help to build these things. But for for phases beyond this, I could see, we'll just have volunteers who are so excited to just come and build the houses, just because they want to be part of the experience. They do it in the West. They do it in India. People from all over the world go to Oroville in Pondicherry. There are so many retreats at these different yoga centers in Rishikesh. What's that one place we went just north of Rishikesh a little? They asked me to come and give a lecture. It's a retreat center where people from all over the world come. They take about, I think, 60 at a time. That's their maximum. And they are booked every day of the year. And they don't have a free space for the next 5 years. And it's a simple place. But people learn philosophy, they learn yoga, they do different kinds of natural chores, like that. And it's mostly people from all over the world. They have a line, I believe, for 5 years now. Radhakund Prabhu, you're here? What's the name of that place? Pooljati. Was it 5 years, they said? People come from, when I spoke there, it wasn't just a group. It was people from everywhere. When I spoke there was people from Iran, from America, from Australia, from Africa, from Israel. There were people from Bahrain. There were people from China. There were people from Japan. There were people from Mexico. And yes, there were people from India. And this is just one group that I happen to be. And some of these people signed up to come for that. They come for 2 weeks at a time. They leave everything. They got in 2 weeks at a time, and just people from all around. They signed up about 3 years in advance to get that 2 weeks. And it's not that there's a famous teacher. It's actually, where's that lady from? From America. So an American lady and an Indian lady are the teachers. And there's a Swami who does the accounts. Yes? He's a saintly person, but he doesn't teach, he just does the accounts.